Hey guys, welcome back to another video tutorial where we are still on the topic of spreadsheet, and in our last video tutorial we identified the use of a merge and center, wrap text, as well as the count and count if functions, also the use of the product formula. Now this video tutorial we are beginning with the use of the sort feature. Now, the sort feature is used to organize data within our spreadsheet based on a given criteria and to allow us to easily identify information based on a classification that we used. Now, for the sort to work properly, we would have to highlight manually based on the current setting up of our database, because we have the use of the merge and center and also the wrap text. This would indicate that changes were made to these cells, and as a result, if I was to select the automated sort, then it would give me a pop-up box to say that changes were made to particular cells within the document. So for this tutorial we will use the manual process where we would highlight the information that is required and then proceed to do the adjustment. So for this section we want to starting from our customer ID heading to the last set of information currently, which is the total price area. Now for this we will go ahead and highlight those cells, and as you can see, that was currently highlighted. Now there are two sections that we can go in order to access the sort feature. We could check under the data tab and we could select sort and filter section and then select sort, or we could remain in the home tab and then to the far right under the editing tab we could select the option that says sort and filter. Now for this we have two options before we see the third and fourth, and these are to sort A to Z or sort Z to A. A to Z would mean that we're moving from ascending to descending or from the lowest to highest, and then the Z to A would be from descending to ascending, which would be highest to the lowest. And for this example we will be using the custom sort. So once I click on the custom sort, we receive a pop-up box which would indicate that we are able to proceed with our sort. Now there are two sections or two level of information within this. We have a first row which contains the different buttons that we can select to apply changes in our sort data selection, as well as the second option which would give us the areas that our sort will be applied to. Now paying attention to the first row to the far right of this pop-up box, we have an option selected that says my data has headers. Now what this implies is that whenever we are making the selection for the column sort by, we will see the specific headings that we had entered within our spreadsheet appearing. If it is that I deselect that, then it would indicate that I'm going to get the default, which is column A, column B, etc. So in order to see this or the changes, I'll select the option that says sort by, and then we have a drop down list to say column A, B, C, etc., etc. If I reselect this option and then I return, then we have the designated headings that we really want to see, and this makes it easier for us to identify what is it that we're sorting by. So we first will want to sort by the customer type, and then this would indicate that the table information or the spreadsheet information will be sorted by the customer type, and if I have it remaining as A to Z, then the information would appear as NC, all of the NCs followed by the RC. However, before I go ahead and select OK, I want a second sort level to be added, and this time I want to indicate that it is the items purchased. Now I'm going to select this and locate the heading that says quantity purchase, and then this now would then organize secondly by the quantity purchase, and for this I want the quantity to show as largest to smallest. I could add a third level to this, and then this would indicate that I'm going to use, let's say, the last name, and we're going to keep it as A to Z. Now, the purpose of all of this is to say we have a set of information in our spreadsheet. However, we will first want a sort to be applied based on the customer type that is there. And then after the computer had completed this, it should proceed to doing a second sort based on the quantity purchased after the customer type has been completed. And then a third thing would be followed by the last name. So first we sort the customer type. Once that is completed, we then proceed to the quantity purchased. Once that is completed, we move to the third option, which is the last name option. So I'm just going to go ahead and select OK, and as you can see, our information is now sorted first by the customer type. So as you can see, we have all customers for the NC, followed by those of RC, and NC then RC would indicate that it went by the alphabet, which is N and then R. After that was applied, we then moved to the quantity purchased, and then we selected from largest to smallest. So for the NC, they gave us the customer that had the largest purchase quantity, and then just to indicate, there are two customers that made purchases, quantity purchased of 4 items. Now, if I proceed to see the names, then you would observe that the next type of sort was done based on the last name. So O comes before S within the alphabet, and then that is how the spreadsheet was sorted. So that technically covers a sort where we arrange the information in our spreadsheet based on a given criteria or based on the stipulated headings that were used in the spreadsheet. The next thing I want to do is to insert a column within my current spreadsheet and to use an if statement in order to produce some results. So let's say firstly, I want to change this customer type to maybe customer code, and then I want to insert a column between customer code column and quantity purchase column. So I will select the column heading for the latter, and then once I select that, I will be checking to see that I'm under the home tab, and then proceed to the cells area which has insert delete format. This time I want to insert a column. Now once the column has been inserted, I want to call this customer type, and then the purpose of the customer type area is to capture the full word that matches the code. So NC was short for new customers, while RC was the abbreviation for returning customers. Now, instead of having to manually type in these customer type, I want to use a formula, which is the if statement. And what the if statement does is to do a comparison between two options based on a given criteria. Now for this, we're going to test the information that is in this column, and based on the criteria that is given, this section should show us whether the customer is a new customer or returning customer. So begin our if statement with the equal sign followed by the if and then open bracket. The first thing it asks for is a logical test. Now the logical test is saying in which cell do you want to make the test. So in this I'm saying E3, and then they're saying what is the rest of this logical test, what is it that you're testing the E3 against. So in this case I want to say if E3 is equal to, what value is it that you want it to be equal to. If it is equal to NC, and again I place NC in double quotation because it is a text-based or string value, and then this would complete the logical test. So we're saying if whatever value is in E3 is equal to this information here, NC, then I'm going to insert my comma to indicate the true value. What would appear if it is NC? In this case, it would be new customers. So again, new customers, and again I place it in double quotation because it is text-based, followed by a comma, and then this would ask now for the final, which is the false value. So this is saying if this was not true, then what other value should we give the user? So we're saying if NC was not located there, then the next option that the user would see would be returning customers. Then we follow by a close bracket and then hit enter. So as you can see, based on the formula that we entered, the results show that there is in fact NC in the customer code, which is E3. E3 contains NC, and as a result, the first value was true, so they gave us new customer. Now I'm just going to go ahead and use the relative addressing to fill out for the others so that you can see the final results. So currently we have new customer, new customer, new customer until we reach the returning customer. So for this, the system is saying when we reach to this cell address, what we identify was not much into the NC, so as a result our output could not have been new customers, so therefore the remaining option, which was the false value, would then show up. So because it was not NC, then technically it would have been the returning customer, and that is the value that they projected here on screen for us. So that gives us a wrap of an if statement, and this, as we said, give us a comparison between two options. Now the next thing that we can use in our calculation is the use of a function called a SUMIFS. Now what the SUMIFS is used for is to check a variety of items, and then if the criteria that was given matches the range, then they would produce a value based on what we ask for. So we begin with the equal SUMIFS with an S, SUMIFS open bracket, and then it asks for the sum range. So they're saying where can we find the set of information that we're going to calculate the sum for, and technically it would be from age 3 to age 11, and this would give us our sum range. So the next thing we have is our comma, and then the next information asks us for the criteria range. So they're saying where are we going to test to see that we're doing the calculations. So we want to test by using, let's say, the customer code. So we begin with E3 to E11 followed by the comma. Now in this case we want to identify that we are only doing the sum, or calculating the total to find all of the NC customers. So in this we would give the criteria, and then the criteria that is in the cell matches NC, so that's exactly what we are entering. Again, double quotation because it is a string, and then we can close the bracket. So once we click on the enter, then that gives us the total for all the NC customers. Just gonna go ahead and place the heading totals for NC, right? All right, so let's total unit price for NC. And then the next thing that we want to find is the total unit price for the RC. So I just copied that for easy access. And then this, now we begin equals SUMIFS open bracket. We're using the unit price cell range, so everything in that column, and then followed by a comma. Where is the range that we're testing to see or perform this calculation based on? So it's the customer code. We highlight all of that, and then what exactly are we calculating for? This time we are calculating only for the RC customers, so we double quotation RC close quotation close bracket, and then enter. And that technically gives us the total for our RC customers. We can go ahead and put some border and maybe color just to showcase this set different from the rest of information, or we could easily just cut this information. I'm going to select cut and maybe bring it a little bit further down and paste. I can insert a border and maybe some color around this. So I insert an outside, or let's say full border, all borders, and then give it some little color for the time being. So I add some color just to indicate this is showing us our total price for NC, total unit price for RC. So that basically is an easy way that we can do the sum calculation using the specific criteria if it is that we have multiple data for our multiple customers for our spreadsheet. So because we had two different sets of customers, we sort the information first so that it would be easy for us to complete our calculations. Now the next thing that I'm adding is the use of a name range. What the name range does is to apply a unit name for a selected set of text, and then whenever we're doing calculations, instead of using the actual cell address or cell range, we would just replace that with the name range data. So let's go ahead and see how this one works. For this, I would like to use it for the total price area. So I'm going to highlight all of this information, and to my top left in the name bar or name box where we have I3, I'm going to remove that and then enter maybe total price, and ensure that there is no space within the name that you are providing for the name range. Once you have completed that, select enter before you do anything else, and then that would register that this is now a named range. So let's say we wanted to find the total, and this would be for everyone now, new customer as well as returning customers. So for this, we would now like to find the total based on the entering of or the usage of the name range. So we begin our formula with the equal sum because we're finding the total, open bracket, and instead of having I3 to I11, we just enter the name that we just created for this, which is total price. And as you can see, when I started entering it, then it provides us with it from a list here. So I double click on that and then it highlights that information. I close my bracket, select enter, and that is the overall total price for all type of customers. Let's call this overall total. Right, so I could also go ahead and move this just to prevent confusion and maybe put it somewhere to the side of this or below this, the next set that we have. So what I could do is go ahead and cut this. So I go ahead and cut, and then I could place it below this. And then also we could apply border as well as shading. So we know that we already found the overall total price for all included customers, and we also found the total price for segmented, which is new customer, as well as those for returning customer. So again, this is technically our second video tutorial for the advanced spreadsheet.